Good morning and welcome to Discover Church. It's good to see you here this morning worshiping with us. Tonight we're going to show the movie Courageous here in our auditorium. And I invite you to be here tonight to be a part of that. Just a few weeks ago, Evan, our discipleship pastor, we were in the office and he said, hey, I'd like to show this movie, part of our discipleship program that we have here at Discover Church. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's no problem at all. You know, that's your vision. That's what you want to do. I'm going to support that 110%. So let's do it. So Evan really pushed. He got the whole package together. He did it right, you know, and we're going to get to see that before it's released on DVD. Maybe some of you have already seen it in the movie theater. I've not seen it yet. And I'm the DVD's there on the desk there on Evan's desk in the office. And he told me, he said, I want you to take that and watch it. I said, okay, I will. And a few weeks have passed, and I've never taken it and popped it in the DVD player and watched it yet. And there's a reason why. I've heard stories. Matt Lorenz, which will be teaching a men's Bible study the few following weeks afterwards on that Sunday night. He got to see the movie, I think one of the first people in the United States. He was at a conference and they showed that movie without any editing, any background, anything that they hadn't done anything to it. It was raw footage. And Matt had shared with me just his experience in watching it. And how it changed his life, how it really moved him as a father. And how that he even implemented some of the things that the movie had said with his children. How it made him want to be a better dad. And I just decided that I was going to watch that movie together with you. That together, that guys, we're going to become better men of God together. I didn't want to go off just in a living room somewhere. I wanted to experience that as a whole. Because I know that several of you are going to come here tonight and it'll be the first time you've seen the movie. And I want to have that same feeling along with you. I want to be a better dad, Jay. I want to figure that out. I want to be able to raise my kids up right, so that they don't maybe fall into the same pitfalls that I did growing up. A lot of you might say, "Hey, you know, I don't have any young kids. All my kids are grown and they're out of the house, and so I don't know that this really applies to me." I don't think you ever stop parenting. I don't think you ever do. I've got a dad that taught me how to work. I can remember sitting at 7-Eleven in the freezing cold. There was snow on the ground, and something was wrong with our radiator on our car. I don't know what it was. It was leaking. I think he was probably changing out a hose. And I would have rather been inside 7-Eleven. I promise you. You know, this was probably before lattes and cappuccinos. But surely they had some hot chocolate in there. Surely they had invented that. I would have rather been inside 7-Eleven. But my dad, I remember he told me, he said, if I'm out here working, you're out here with me. I was a young boy. If I need something, you need to hand it to me. If you've got to think through the process before I ever need it. I want you to realize that when we're working together, think about what we're doing and anticipate what we need and have it there for me, so that when I need it, it's there. And that was something that was taught to me. You might think, well, I can't believe he put somebody out in the freezing cold. Little bitty boy that guy should have been. But I tell you what, the values that he instilled with me have never left. And I work hard no matter what I do. I give 110%. I try the best I can. I try to anticipate the problems and the situations in my life so that I can head those things off for my family and for my kids, my wife, and for our church family. I hope that you had a dad that instilled in you the same Christian values that my dad instilled in me. And maybe you didn't. And maybe as a parent, you did not instill those Christian values in your kids as they were raised. But you never stop parenting. Because even now, as maybe you've learned a different way of life or a different way of living, you now can implement that into their life no matter how old or no matter how young that they are. I don't think you stop parenting. Now, the good thing about it is you don't maybe have to support them anymore. Well, some you might, but you get to invest in them over and over and over again. I'm telling you today that since Evan has just brought this movie to light, and I've heard the stories, God is impressed on my heart. We need to do something, men. That we truly do need to be courageous. We need to have courage in our life. To be able to stand up against anything that's not of God. And that we need to live for Him and lead our families. So I don't know what that looks like over the next 6 months or year. That's not been revealed to me. God and I have been talking a lot, but I don't know what it looks like. But I do know over the next 4 weeks, after this Sunday night, that we're going to have a discipleship class for men. Evan, does that start at 6:30 or something like that? 6:30? And I want you to be there. Just for men this time. Men, if we can learn how to lead our homes, for whatever reason God chose us, women are much stronger than we are. We know that. We're not stupid. Women are what holds families together. We're not stupid. We're tough. We're durable. We're rugged. We'll try to figure it out on our own. And it just seems like the woman of the house always brings us back to reality and lets us plant our feet back on solid ground when we need to. They always rein us back in. And I want to thank you, ladies, for being strong, because a lot of times it's your prayers and your consistency that brings guys like us to this place, because sometimes we wouldn't choose it on our own. But you've brought us here, and because you have, we're going to make commitments to you and our family. That we are going to be like God. That we are going to strive to live like Christ desires for us to live. And that we are going to do something special inside of our families' lives that's important enough that it changes the focus. It changes who we are and what we are. And over the next 4 weeks, we're going to listen and we're going to learn and we're going to strive to be better. And you just see. Just see, ladies. Just see, kids. If our families don't change a little bit, that the dynamics of those aren't a little bit different than what they are right now. I want you to be here tonight for this movie. It changes the dynamics of what Discover Church is. Men, if we can't lead our families to Christ, if we can't be the example, if we can't even walk into a room and kneel down with our kids and pray with them, something's wrong. If we can't be the man of God that He desires for us to be, then we have failed, no matter how big and how tough and no matter what we do. If we can't do that, and we've got to change something inside. And I'm asking you to come tonight, and no matter how spiritually great you are or how close to God, I think there's something tonight for you. And no matter if you don't know God or not, maybe this is, you walk in, you say, hey, my wife brought me here today, and I'd rather be some other place. I'm glad you're here today. And I'm glad you're coming tonight just to give it a chance and just an opportunity just to see what it can do. Just see what God can do in our lives. Our kids want to be just like us. You know it? They admire us no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you act. They want to mimic you. They want to say what you say. They want to do what you do. My son, his name is Tyler, and he's 9 years old, 3rd grade, and we love to ride horses together. It's something. My girls, they're a little bit older, and I wanted Jennifer to ride. You know, I wanted her to compete and do all those different things. But Jennifer's kind of a girly girl, and she loves to sit on a horse. But as far as, really getting out, and that's not her. And Emily, my middle daughter, she loves horses. But for some reason, when she gets on the top of one, it's more about probably waving and she doesn't really watch where she's going sometimes, and it's dangerous. But Tyler can ride, man. He can get on a horse, and he can do whatever he wants to do. And as a dad, man, it makes me proud. Matt, it makes me proud. I watch him, and I go out and I try to help him and run barrels and do different event type stuff. And you know the reason he likes it so much? It's because I like it. I love it. If I'm having a rough day, if I'm having a hard time, if I'm whatever, you probably won't see me, because I'm going to go get on one of my horses that I've got, and I'm going to go down that long hill back towards the river, and I'm just going to ride. Joe, it's kind of like you and hunting. I'm just going to get away. That's where me and God. But my son knows that as well. And so he'll wake up, and it'll be like a school day. And he'll say, "Hey, I think we should go ride today." I was like, "I think we should too, but your education might be just as important." My point is this. For me and my son, it might be riding horses. It might be playing a little basketball. When he's playing basketball, he has a tendency to stick his tongue out to the side. No matter where he's doing, he's dribbling, and he's got his tongue just lapping over, and I think saliva's coming down his face. But he's so intense. He gets that from his dad. Because when I played ball in school, I was the same way. I had my tongue out. And I think he had to inherit that. He didn't see that from me. He inherited that from me somehow. I don't know. He's flailing all over the court, and he'll dive for a ball, and he'll be on the ground. And people used to say to me when I was playing ball, I was like, "You are on the ground more than you are on your feet." I said, "Because I'm hustling. That's the reason why, because I'm hustling. Going diving for balls." Let me just say this. I say all that not to talk about me and my son, but just to say that our children admire us, and they mimic us, and they desire to be like us. Basketball is important to me, and horses are important to me. More than that, God, would you let my son mimic me in the things of God? Let him grow up, because he loves to play music. Debbie brought over, that plays the drums for us, she brought over a drum set because Tyler loves to play music. And he was in his room yesterday, and he was singing some Indian war chant on the drums. And I told Christy, I said, come here. I said, "You got to listen to this." And he was like, he was singing something about God being there, and And I thought, little kid in his room, doing something he loves, playing drums, he loves music. Not singing some country song or some Justin Bieber song with that. My daughter got Justin Bieber cologne or perfume. would you wear that? I don't know why you want to smell like him. And if he smells that way, he's... Anyway. So he's in there playing, you know. I told my wife, I said, come here and listen. And he's just singing to God, beating the drums. God, may you make him a worship leader. May you invest in him and let him sing in front of thousands of people, leading them to Christ. God, if he wants to ride horses, if he wants to play basketball, that's fine. Make it a vehicle. Make it an opportunity. But whatever you do, let him do something for you. Let him do something for you. Have you watched Tim Tebow in the last 6 months? The guy that can't play in the NFL? The guy that will never make it? The guy that I guess led the Denver Broncos to the playoffs. Now, I know they lost last night, and they lost. Oh, goodness. I just say Denver couldn't play defense. You know, anybody that hangs 45 on you, I mean, you know, how are you supposed to win a game like that? But do you know the story behind Tim Tebow? Mom and Dad were missionaries. His mom got really, really sick, was in a coma during that pregnancy for a while. The doctors told her, you should have an abortion. This is what you should do. You should go and you should terminate the pregnancy. And the stories that I've read, his father prays and he tells God, if you just give me a son, I will name him Timothy. Just give me a son. And if you give me a son, would you make him a preacher? In the article I read at the end of it, it said, I prayed for a preacher and he gave me a quarterback. But one of the most well-known quarterbacks in the NFL today is Tim Tebow. Not for his passing ability, not for his athleticism, not for the national championships that he's won or a Heisman Trophy, but because of his faith. Tim Tebow, before every game, home or away, brings in a child that has an illness, pays their way for their family to come in and sit on the sidelines of those games. And before he goes out and throws a football, he goes over to the sideline and he talks to that girl or that boy, and he shares with him his faith, or shows or exercises that faith in front of them at least. And then he goes and plays, and then after that game he comes back again and he talks to them and is there with them for a few moments at least before he goes off to the press. And Tim Tebow said that it's all about investing in people, investing in their lives, making a difference. And he said football is just the vehicle or the avenue that allows me to do that. If you're Bob Tebow today, you must be proud of the prayers that you prayed before he was ever born. Should we terminate this? Should we just push this kid aside and just say the illness could cause major damage and he's probably not going to be normal? Or should we pray, God, if you see fit for this pregnancy to go full term and you see fit to see this boy born, I'm telling you today, and Bob invests his whole life in Timothy. And you see what can happen. You see what happens when we do that as fathers, as mothers, as parents, as families. It changes the dynamics of who we are. There's a story in Esther, and there's a man that's named Mordecai, and he takes Esther and he raises Esther as his very own. They're not blood related, but he takes Esther and raises this girl. And the story here in Esther, if you haven't read this book, you need to go this afternoon and just read through. It's a great story. There's a king named Xerxes. And King Xerxes is married to a queen. He has a queen that's by his side. And he summons her to come and to be there, and she refuses to go. And just like a man, he's upset about it. He's mad. How dare you? I tell you to come. I tell you to be here by my side, and I want the world to see your beauty and who you are, and you need to be here supporting me, and what do? You don't show up? Well, I'll show you. That's how we are, Dad, sometimes, isn't it? I'll show you. I'll show you how much power I have. I'll show you what I can do to you. I'll show you how I can hurt you. I will show you. I will show you. I will show you. And so he tells those noble officers around him to send word to tell her, the queen is no longer allowed in my presence. The queen is no longer allowed to be around me. From now on, she's banished. And she's not going to, I'll show her. She thinks she has it good. She thinks she's got it great. No longer. And so now the king decides that he will just find another queen to sit in her spot. And he does. That queen is Esther. They've got to go through this big ritual. For over a year, they've got to go and they've got to learn the technique of how to be a queen and go through all of this ritual stuff. And out of all of that, the king Xerxes, he will choose one of those ladies that have been brought in, and he'll choose those ladies out, and he will crown her his queen once again, so that she can stand beside him, and her beauty will be displayed, and all of those different things. And so Esther, for whatever reason, is put into this position. She is chosen to be the queen. Mordecai, the man that raised her, the man that invested in her, the man that showed her how to live and how to be, was Jewish. He overheard some of the officers outside of the gate of the city there. They were conspiring that they were going to kill the king. And so he relayed that message back to Esther. And Esther relayed that message to the king. And then a man named Haman, he took care of those men that were evil and that were going to assassinate the king. And so Haman is raised up and kind of like put up on a pedestal. He's exalted because of his duties by hanging these two men. The story goes on. It starts talking about Mordecai and how that Haman, because of him being exalted, anybody that comes in and out of the gates of the city, they have to bow down to Haman because of where he's at. Mordecai, the man that raised Esther, refuses to bow down. He's not going to do it. The only person Mordecai would bow down to would be his Lord. And so they ask him over a long period of time as he comes and he goes, and they're saying, why don't you bow down in front of him? It's important that you do this. This is what everybody else has to do. He's been exalted. He's a noble officer from the king, and you need to respect him for that. And he says, no, I'm not going to do it. And so Haman gets extremely mad, extremely frustrated, and he wants to kill Mordecai. Now, this is the man that raised Esther, the queen. And so instead of just killing Mordecai, he decides, I'm going to kill his whole family. I'm going to kill all of the Jews that are in this area. And so he goes to the king and he tells the king about Mordecai and him being defiant, and he won't bow, and he won't do this, and he won't do that. And so the king declares by his own royal seal that these Jews in this area, they should be put to death. And so now now there's an issue. Now there's a problem. Because Esther is going to lose the man that raised her, Mordecai. The father, if you will, that taught her and showed her and all of those, all the way up to this point, so she could be at this place. As they begin to discuss, I want to read to you a scripture in Esther chapter 4, verse 14. Esther is talking to Mordecai, and then Mordecai responds back. It says, "For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place." So if you don't say anything to the king, then surely God's going to bring another way to be able to save them. But you and your family will perish. If you don't say something, Esther, to the king, then you and I are going to die. And who knows but that you have come to this royal position for such a time as this. A queen could never go into the presence of the king unless the queen was summoned by the king to come. And it had been over a month at this time since Esther had been summoned to come and to be with the king. For her to go to the king and say, "Listen, Haman is going to kill Mordecai. Haman is going to kill the very people that I was raised with. Haman is doing this out of spite, and you should put this to rest. You should not allow him to do it. Would risk her death." For the very moment that the king could see her, he could summon her to him, and she would be killed immediately for disobeying the law of the land. And that's the reason that Mordecai says that maybe you have been called for such a time as this. I have raised you. I have shown you a godly way. And maybe this is the time, maybe this is the very time that God wants you to stand. And He wants to use you to do something that will save so many people. You know, I think maybe this is the time that Bob Tebow was talking about with his son, where he says, "God, if you will just give me a preacher," and then He gave me a quarterback. Maybe it was such a time as this that our nation needs somebody to rally behind that's good and not evil. Maybe as guys and fathers that we need to see some type of role model that we can point our kids to and say, you know, you can do it right, and you can do it good, and you don't have to compromise, and you can stand when they're talking bad about you, and no matter if you win or lose, you still are what God has called you to be. Such a time as this, a guy like Tim Tebow stands up, and I know we're looking. We're searching. There's got to be some girls in his background. There's got to be some failure there somewhere. I'm sure it's going to come out where, you know, this guy, I don't know if it will or not. I hope not. But I know this. Everybody in the NFL is talking about Christ right now and doing the Tebow. I don't care what you call it. It's called prayer. And they're watching him as he prays to his heavenly Father for strength and all sorts of things in his life to be able to do the things that God's called him to do. So you can do the Tebow if you want to do it. I don't care what you call it as long as you're doing it. I bet Bob Tebow today watches his son every time he goes out on an NFL playing field and knows that it's just one more opportunity for him to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to millions of people as they watch him throw a football against the defense of a team called the Patriots last night. It's a great stage for when they bring that girl and you probably saw this girl that he brought last week to the playoffs. Autoimmune disease, 73 surgeries that she's faced. And she goes, Tim Tebow is my hero. And he in return said, no, you're my hero. You're my hero for what you've went through and how that you've overcame. Guys, I don't know what our children will turn out to be like. And we don't have ultimate control over that. We don't. But God, let us not fail. Let us not fail today. I don't want my son or my daughter just to be great at something. Because that will come and go. My dad always wanted me to play basketball, and I was decent in high school. Decent at best, probably. I would have loved to play in the NBA. Man, can you imagine? 6-foot white boy playing in the NBA? It's never happened. I'm not known today for my basketball playing. I'm not. I don't know what you did as a kid. You're not known for it. Now, I don't... Vinny, did you play a little baseball maybe or something? I don't know. A little bit? You're not known for it. Sorry. He was a good second baseman in softball. So, all of that stuff that we put our kids through, it's fun and it's good. But what they'll be known for is how they treat their wife when they get married. You know, when they go and they ask, can I marry your daughter? And that dad says, yeah, you can. My son will be known for how he treats his wife, whether he provides for her, if he's loving and caring and a godly man. He'll be known for how he treats his kids when he has kids. He'll be known today by his actions at work. He'll be known for how he treats others. Whether he's compassionate or he's caring or loving. And all the other stuff is just teachable moments. Teachable moments. God, do not let us fail today as fathers. Do not let us fail today as parents. Because when we get to a point in our lives where our children have to decide if they're going to stand for what's right, like Esther, let them choose such a time as this. And let them stand strong and let them stand bold. And don't let other things around them sway them, even unto death. Do not let them compromise. But Esther stood there and she said, in herself, I am sure Mordecai raised me to do something special. Don't you think? Mordecai taught me what to do. Not to bow and let all of these people die and perish, but he taught me to walk right up to the king. It says when the king saw her, he summons her immediately. He wasn't mad. He wasn't frustrated. He didn't have a look of death in his eyes like, how dare you? God had given her favor. He looked upon her with beauty. And he said, come. And she said, Haman is trying to kill us all. and you've got to do something about it. And he did. He did. Because Esther was willing to stand and to do what was right. Guys, if we're going to have any influence over our family, over people in this church, over people in this community, then it takes a time just like this. Just like this. God, I want to tell you right now that I am sorry for the times that I have failed. For the times that I have not been the example to my children that I should have been. For the times that I have raised my voice, or the times that I have done things that have been shameful to you. I'm sorry, God. I'm so sorry. But my commitment to you today, God, is this: that I will try my best to be the man of God that you have called me to be the example, so that when my kids get into a place where they have to choose what is right and wrong, they will stand and they will choose you every time. That they might say, because my father taught me what to do, I can now stand for what God believes. No matter if the crowd behind them is supporting them or not. No matter if they're standing all alone. If they're all by themselves, they know. Because their father has taught them, they have to stand. And when they stand, the favor of God will be there with them. I want to know today, in this room, how many fathers will stand with me today? How many fathers? I know you don't have little kids, maybe you got older kids. You're still teaching, you still have influence over your kids, no matter what the relationship is. And ladies, I'm not trying to leave you out. I'm just saying today is a day for us. Because if it can't start with us, you'll just have to continue to pray until it does. I know it's a bold move, and I know it's uncomfortable for you. But my kids are that important to me. But I'm going to ask you as a dad, as a parent, would you make a commitment today to your family?